But I was thinking about the stuff that made Conor McGregor special and the stuff that you still don't see. There is a ton of stuff you could steal from Conor McGregor that would start to give you the makings of an elite fighter if you could pull it off. A lot of Conor McGregor is the counter left hand. And I think he got a lot of, there was this belief that his left hand was magic. And on the lead, it's okay. It's on the counter that he was really murking people. And it was off the sort of backstepping counter, the open side counter. Did like a galloping backstep a lot of the time. The pull counter, just that left hand over the top of the opponent's right. And often he'd take the right hand on the chin and throw his left hand across the top as well. But it's just the timing of that counter. And you can go back to his like earliest MMA fights and he's winning with that counter. But the thing is, we were coming out of an era where there had been some successful counter strikers. Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida being the most obvious examples. But both of those guys had to sort of like make up for the fact that they didn't really like to lead. So Anderson Silva used to do flashy bullshit on the lead and do, one or two bursts of activity around. And Lyoto Machida just learned to kick really well from long range. So the front kick and turning it over into a high kick. Mark Munoz fight's a great example of that, but just used to stand back and kick people and only really punched on the counter because he wanted people lunging at him. What McGregor did was push forward and put the guy under pressure immediately. So that counter punching, you can watch Anderson Silva against Chris Lieben and Forrest Griffin. Even Forrest Griffin takes some coaching, but Chris Lieben comes out and just walks at Anderson Silva. And it is the perfect performance in that Anderson Silva has 100% strike accuracy and Chris Lieben has 0% strike accuracy. Because Chris Lieben's just feeding him his head. It's the perfect fight to show off backstepping punches because Anderson Silva can step backwards, throwing his opposite hand to whichever leg's forward, dipping his head offline to the other side, and he's just hitting Lieben because Lieben's head's staying on a line coming at him. Where that stops working is like if Patrick Cote, who was nothing special as a fighter, doesn't lead at you. Very hard to counterpunch him. What McGregor was able to do was come out, put people under pressure immediately, and panic them into throwing back. Which links with another thing that I want to talk about, putting the guy against the cage, because that creates the pressure. It means that when you want to throw at him, he can't run. And it means that when he comes back at you, you've got the whole cage to drop away through. And I'm still talking about this in MMA all the time. And I'm still talking about this in boxing even, with like Raymond Muratali as my classic example of contemporary fighter who does this. By putting the opponent on the ropes, you give yourself the option that you can just back off if you want to. He has to take like 2 steps to catch you in the middle of the ring, and you could always angle off afterwards, or you can come back countering. Raymond Muratalia really disheartens a lot of opponents by just going, no, I'm not engaging on your terms. Right, back to the ropes with you. But you saw the power of that against Khabib Nurmagomedov, because Khabib's a better wrestler, he's a bigger, stronger fighter, and his conditioning's better. But in the third round, McGregor was able to sprawl on him. And you're like, how does that happen? Because Conor McGregor had him moving backwards. He was front kicking and pushing him back. Khabib shoots with his back foot on the fence towards the center of the cage. McGregor has all that room to like run his feet, sprawl his legs out, take some momentum off the shot, make sure that Khabib's like going down into the ground rather than hitting the fence immediately. You can see this with Bilal versus Leon Edwards too. Every time Bilal shot against the cage, he got the takedown. Every time Bilal shot out in the open, Leon Edwards was able to sprawl back and get his legs out of the way. Or turn and feed in the single. But room behind you is massively important. So not only are you putting the guy under pressure by putting him on the fence and saying, oh, you're going to get battered if you stay there, you're making him take bad shots because of that pressure, but you're also giving yourself tons of room to deal with the shots. So ring position and aggression with the idea of getting on the counter. First and third is the Conor McGregor story. Get the guy to the fence, kick the shit out of him with front kicks to the body, which again, I keep saying commentators have front kick blindness. Because I remember after the Chad Mendes fight, people were like, why did Mendes gas out? It's like, he was kicked in the body like 40 times. Just commentators don't talk about front kicks to the body. I was watching Tony Ferguson do this. Tony Ferguson was constantly front kicking people in the body and they're going, he's exhausting them with pace. It's like, yeah, pace and the ball of his foot is squishing their intestines out. But that long range artillery smashing people in the body along the fence, wearing them down, and then they come off the fence and you got your backstepping counter, your open side counter. That was the entire Chad Mendes game plan. And the Mendes one is so interesting because McGregor's knee is obviously fucked. And you can see him not timing that at all well. And obviously Chad Mendes is super fast. Like the sprinting overhand is the team alpha male move. And he keeps getting cracked while he's trying to time this backstepping counter. And then eventually he tires Mendes out so much that he's standing in front of him like, He's heaving his breaths too, but he's able to time the counter and hurt him and then get the finish. So all these things, pressure, body work, cage position, first and third, being a counter fighter, but not like identifying as a counter fighter. You're doing your damage on the counter because that's when the opponent's most exposed, but you're going out and you're rattling him to get those counters, to get him to feed you up those counters. And those are all things that I think anyone at any stage in fighting, there's not going to be a time in 50 years where I'm like, yeah, pressuring people to fluster them to set up better counters is a bad idea. No, this is like the nuance, the art of counter fighting. Because at a certain point, you cannot just go, I'm a counter fighter. Everyone knows I'm a counter fighter. Tee me up those strikes to counter, please. Oh, and the bringing power from both sides of the plate when cutting the cage. That's another very important one, which I noticed when I was doing that little video on Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor in 2013 last week. He didn't really have it back then. It was slightly later, after, because he injured his knee against Holloway and took a year off. When he came back, he had the wheel kicks and the back kicks. Now, he had a Taekwondo coach, and that's an interesting story in itself, because that Taekwondo coach at SBGI ended up hitting someone in a drunk altercation, and the guy's head bounced off the pavement and he died, which is, oh my God, this is my number one thing on why you don't get into street fights, and also why you never spar on pavement. Oh my, I see little Cuban kids sparring on pavement too, and I'm like, well, how many of these future Felix Savons and Andy Cruzes have we lost on pavements? Oh, that's grim to think about. Mind you, Felix Savon, yeah, nowadays he'd probably be like, yeah, that probably should happen. But yeah, when I watch like Fedor and his mates sparring on a playground, it's like, yeah, I know you're not trying to knock each other out, but sometimes you zig when you should have zagged, and the other guy isn't aware of what you're doing, and you lean onto something by accident. But anyway, that Taekwondo coach ended up in jail, or prison rather, for not traditional martial arts teacher reasons. But that was a really interesting aspect of McGregor's style. They always talk about karate Conor. And really it was more Taekwondo Conor. But he had a very, like, you can watch him back in the old days in the sort of, is it the yellow room? It was like yellow mats in the old SBGI, drilling his like lead leg high kick and stuff. And it's a very interesting style of kicking, and it's part of why people say that his low kicks suck. And they used to say that when I had people tell me that he couldn't low kick when I was just saying, for the Nate Diaz rematch, just low kick, mate. And he did come out and low kicked effectively, but then he managed to like break his own foot low kicking. It's quite interesting that this man, this jeweled man, has feet of clay. He just seems to have glass feet. No matter what he does, he hurts his feet. But shout out Kate Bush, suspended in Gaffer, absolute banger. Adding the back kicks and the wheel kicks was important, because while that looks like flashy bullshit, that gave him a weapon from the other side of the plate. He stands very side on, typically. So his right hook is not much of an issue. He also just doesn't throw it much. So when the opponent, when he backed people towards the fence and they started circling away from his left hand, which is, you're like, even if you didn't know anything about fighting, if you took a few, you would start circling away from it. Adding the wheel kick and the back kick gave him something to punish people for doing that. So Brandao, he knocked out off the wheel kick to the head. And I think we sort of miss out on the wushu bullshit mysticism stuff too, to be honest. Because he was always this mix of like clout chasing, you know, here's my Rolex, I'm buying this, that, and the other stuff. But there was always that like, oh, the art of the expressing the human body, all that stuff, which I think really does help. Like people who, you can be like, Bruce Lee wasn't a fighter. You can be like, oh, it's all wushu nonsense. But having that sort of open mind to explore things like that is how you end up as a guy who's got good boxing, using weird Taekwondo kicks as a large part of your game. We're not far removed from like when it was, you get your Muay Thai kicks and you get your boxing hands and you get your wrestling takedowns, when there are a million ways to skin the cat on every aspect of fighting. And obviously that becomes touch butt in the park. But it is missed, that sort of thing. Whenever someone says, oh, martial arts saved my soul or whatever, or martial arts saved me, or I'm actually more dangerous without martial arts, or something like that, you know, you roll your eyes and you do the jerk off motion, but ultimately that little bit of mysticism and a little bit of the Bruce Lee absorbing what is useful and discarding what is useless, could improve most fighters, to be honest. So yes, my weird relationship with Conor McGregor, where I just got bored of talking about him in 2016 when I wrote that fucking book,